Welcome to Choose Wisely. I'm your host, Armin Gabrielli. This is May month. It is Mental Health Month. I have to talk to my brothers because there's so much going on in society that is wreaking havoc on my heart. Some things I'm even ashamed of what's going on, not just what some men are doing, but what a lot of men are not doing. Within the last couple of months, it's been on the news nationwide about some serious domestic violent issues that resulted in death, husbands killing their wives. I'm sure all of you have heard about the mayor, sorry, not the mayor, but the um, vice mayor in Florida that got killed by her husband. There's another incident of a female pastor got killed by her husband. In fact, last week, someone I know brought to attention how on the news within the last couple of months, 4 prominent, successful women were killed by the husband. And I almost don't know the words to express how I feel. It's unbelievable. I really just don't know the words how I feel. We have to heal. We have to. Of the couple of things that I want to talk about, I think what I'll talk about this time is those of us who stand by and do nothing. I had a very good friend of mine. I had to let him go for a short period of time until he changed because he started getting violent towards his girlfriend. As brothers, we shouldn't stand for that. We're talking about our women. We're talking about our mothers, our sisters, our daughters. What are we doing? How are we treating them this way? Why are we treating them this way? What is it about what a woman does that would cause us to ill treat them? As far as I'm concerned, there is never a reason to be violent or aggressive towards a woman. Never. Any female, young or old. There are some men out there that are just sick. They're just evil and sick, but I'm not talking about those men. I'm talking about those who are violent, who are oppressive, who are bullies in their home because they're too weak, you're too cowardice to do the work on you for you to be healthy. Anytime I see a man ill treat a woman, it's because he's weak, he's coward, and he's definitely unhealthy. Why is he weak? Because he won't do what's necessary to heal, to look within himself, to look in the mirror and see what's wrong with him, to do better. Why is he a coward? Not treat all women with the highest level of respect. What are we doing? What is wrong with us as men? May have been said jokingly that man created problems, but it's true. We have a significant responsibility in our community. We're supposed to be leaders, and leaders are doers. Leaders do first and show others how to follow. They show others what to do. What are we doing? I can tell you a society of men by how the men treat their women. I'm sorry, said that wrong. I can tell you about the character of men in the society by how the women in that society are treated. And what are we saying? Those of us who are healthy, we have a responsibility to safeguard women and to help out our brothers who are not healthy. It is a responsibility that is necessary to practice. I hear conversations go on and on about wanting things to get better. Things need to get better. I hear complaints from people about things need to improve. Look how worse things are. I hear a lot of people my age talk about the next generation or the new generation, the young generation. There's so much lip and negative talk about the younger generation. The thing is that the younger generation were raised by us. We raised the younger generation. So any problem you have with a generation behind us, the fault lies with us. And the fault lies with us men. Not with women. Not with the mothers. The responsibility and the fault of how future generations are lie with the men. We are either abusive or completely absent. It lies with us, no matter what. If we have healthier men in our society absolutely automatically will become healthier. But it is up to us. The other day, someone shared casually, like it was nothing, that they don't know their father. I'm a teacher, and we was just talking. A subject came up, and somebody said, "Oh, I don't even know my father. I don't even know." Actually, we was talking about graduation, who's coming. And the person said, "Oh, casually, like it was nothing, like it was normal. Don't know my father." I said, "That's unbelievable," to myself. That's sad. Every time I hear it, that's sad. Currently, right now, 83% of homes do not have fathers. That means 83% of children grow up without fathers in their home. That's ridiculous. What are we doing? What are we saying to the next brother? Every opportunity I get when I see a young man, I try to encourage him to be a true healthy man, whatever that looks like. I talk. I share. Every opportunity. I don't have to know the young man. They just have to be in my space long enough for me to strike a conversation. I usually ask, what are they doing? What are they into? If they're in school, if they're in life. Strike up a conversation to see where they are. And then we get into the conversation of being a healthy, responsible man in different ways. But it needs to happen because too many of our young men, our young brothers, have been growing up without fathers and don't know what to do. And then unfortunately they grow up and they become unhealthy men, contributing to the problems instead of helping the problems, instead of providing solutions. As men, those of us who are healthy, those of us who are doing well, we need to make the time to be fathers to those who are not. However way it looks, become a mentor. Talk to the young boys in your neighborhood. Something. We need to be present with a force. Us healthy brothers, us healthy men, when we see unhealthy men, we need to talk to them. Those who can be reached, we need to talk to them. If you know somebody who is not well, who is not doing right in their relationship, if you know somebody who got children by many different women, if you know somebody who cusses out their women, if you know somebody who has many different women, if you know a man who is not being a father to his children, speak to that brother. Speak to that brother and get him to start working on himself. If we truly, as we say we want to do, as I hear casually wherever I go, that we want things to be better, we don't like how things are, it's going to stop with us men, getting better and doing better. For those of us who got significant problems, we need to work on them and heal. And for those of us who are healthy, doing well, we need to start being more present for those who don't have fathers in their lives. That's the only way things are going to get better, is if we do something. Talking, complaining will do absolutely nothing. And we can't wait for anybody. We can't wait for any government program. We can't wait for any institution. It can't be anything outside of us. Any progress, any healing, any betterment is going to come from us. We have to do it. Having, again, conversations. I was with a group of young men and older men, and a conversation came up as to who has trauma, who what, and so forth. People thinking they're fine, everybody's okay. So many things have become normalized that we don't even know what trauma is, what it looks like. I made a list of experiences that if we had as a childhood, you're not whole. Even if you learn to cope, you're not whole. You have some fractures. You have some trauma. This is a list made quickly, just from a conversation I heard. If you grew up without your father, you have a significant father fracture. If you grew up without a significant, healthy, paternal figure in your life, good chance you may not even know how to be a man, how to be healthy, how to show up the way we're supposed to for our society to show up. If either of your parents used drugs, was an alcoholic, significant trauma. You have a fracture that needs to heal if you haven't addressed it. If either of your parent, but most times it's the father, was abusive, significant. In fact, you have it within you to be abusive yourself. Check yourself. Check how you are. If your parents didn't know how to be affectionate, didn't know how to show love, you have an emptiness that you don't even know is there. We need affection. We need love. We need human touch in order to live. It's been biologically proven that we need human touch. And lack of it shows up in so many ways. The most prominent way is being promiscuous, men and women. Not having that affection, not having that love from your parent just makes you need it so much that you're either out there too much or you accept anything that comes your way. Any show of affection or love, you'll take. Because bad love is better than no love in that mindset of someone who grew up without it. We need it to be healthy. We have to have it. And if you grew up without it, you have a hole, you have a fracture. Healing needs to be done. If your mother or father were in prison, that's a significant trauma that you have no idea is affecting you. Usually affects our self-worth. What is your potential, good or bad? We get that from how our parents are. People look at their generations before them to see what their potentials are according to the family lineage. The better the lineage, the better your potential, the better you feel. The worse your lineage, the high risk of you feeling bad. Something to address. If either of your parents died early, that's a significant trauma. Even if you grew up with another family member, that's still something to address and deal with. Not growing up with your biological parent is not the way things were meant to be. And it's instinctive. It's part of our nature. And it creates a hole. This is why even a lot of times for kids who are adopted, which is on my list also, if you are adopted, there is a little something there. And if you know when you learn that you're adopted, a lot of times that at that moment creates a trigger. And I say that because a lot of people don't know that they were adopted until they become older. A lot of adoptive parents don't tell the children that they're adopted until they come over, as long as it can be avoided. Of course, when there's adoptions from people from the different races, that's obvious. But that's a trauma, one that needs to be healed, one that needs to be addressed. If you were molested, raped, sexually assaulted at a young age, definitely as an adult, but as a young age, that's such a deep, deep trauma. And the numbers are staggering. For men, statistically, it says 1 out of 13, according to the National Children's Alliance, 1 out of 13 boys experience sexual abuse. And 1 out of 6 males experience sexual trauma in their lifetime. That is a high number. You usually hear 1 out of 4 women were raped or molested, but 1 out of 6 males experience sexual trauma. You don't hear that. That's deep. That's significant. It affects us in ways that we can't even fathom sometimes. And 1 out of 13 boys experience sexual abuse. It says 43% of boys experience at least one form of childhood trauma, with over 2/3 of U.S. adults experiencing some form of adverse childhood experience. Adverse childhood experience. What that says to me is that when I walk around in a grocery store, when I'm shopping or I'm at a mall, I can count all the men I see and how many of them experience significant trauma and even sexual trauma and abuse. If you grow up in foster care, that's a significant trauma based on the experience you had. Unfortunately, too many, have an unhealthy experience. There are some that I know personally who are amazing. I have a dear friend named Rod Haynes. He is wonderful. He is a gift to the world and a gift to a lot of young males, young children, period, because of all of what he does. He's an example of somebody who did the work, who healed, came from a pretty decent home. But I know so many who have not. And a lot of times I'm usually surprised because sometimes as I'm interacting with people, it's not as obvious. I may know, or it may be obvious that there's some trauma, just don't know exactly where it's coming from. If you are in a gang, being in a gang is not just a trauma, but also a symptom that you have traumas, the needing to belong. If, as a child, someone very close to you died, especially a bad way, if you witness brutal killing as a child, that's a trauma. That stays with you. What we need to do is address these traumas. We need to go back. We need to go back and see and look at the list of traumas. Identify what was trauma. Did we deal with it? How to deal with it? How to make sure that how we behave, how we're showing up, is not based according to that trauma. I heard two significant things recently. One, this therapist said that most men walk around with a wounded boy inside them, and that is true. Most men walk around with a wounded boy. Why is it that even recent statistics I just read is not so well known? It's because in our society, men are taught to shut up, stick your chest out, and move forward. We're told to keep quiet, handle it, be a man, say nothing, and just handle it. That's no longer working. That philosophy is flawed and it's not working. That's why we have men killing women. Every time you turn around, most domestic violent calls is a man beating a woman. So to shut up, keep quiet, don't cry, stick your chest out, all of that is flawed and it's not working. We're just getting worse and worse and worse because we're not addressing it. We're not addressing the trauma, the hurt, the anger, the fracture. We have to. The other thing that I heard this weekend said that pain changes you, changes who you are. You are no longer the same person after experiencing pain. I thought about it. I said, wow, that's actually more true than we realize. We always change. We do things differently when we experience pain. So when we experience significant pain, it changes us. We are not the same and we're going to do things differently. And unfortunately, a lot of times without knowing how to handle the pain, how to manage and process it. The change that we make makes us worse. We're worse in relationships. We're worse to ourselves. We pick up habits that aren't good for us. Why do people do drugs, drink alcohol? Why do people become alcoholics? It's to numb the pain. Why do people go out partying every weekend? Friday, Saturday, Thursday sometimes even. It's because they're trying to numb the pain. Why do people jump from bed to bed to bed? Trying to fill a hole that's causing significant pain. Why do some people work from sun up to sundown? Some do it because it keeps them too busy to recognize and acknowledge the pain that's within them. You can't hide from pain. You can't ignore it forever. We have to deal with it, and we have to heal. A lot in the news these last couple of months. A lot. Before it was every once in a while. But it seemed like just one after the other. Wife got killed by husband. Wife got killed by husband. Wife got killed by husband. Something else that made the news domestically was in Louisiana. Man killed 8 children, shot 10 people. The adults survived. 8 children ranging from the age of 3 to 14. That was a domestic incident. He killed children. That's sad. I'm sure there had to be behaviors from that individual that said he's not right. How many people knew this individual and did nothing? Imagine if men, healthy men, knew this individual and intervened, started working on him. Yo, brother, you need to, what's up? And started getting him to work on himself. Those 8 children would be alive today. What I think should never be ignored is violent behavior or violent talk. Neither one. Those two scare me. The talk scares me. Physical violence usually follows verbal violence. Whenever dealing with a client and it comes up, I always ask, are they verbally violent? Do they threaten? First it's a thought, then it's words, and the actions usually follow. As a male, when we're dealing with our brothers, what do they say? What kind of conversations do they have? What do they talk? How do they refer to their women? Shouldn't even be women. How do they refer to their women? How are they with their children? We got to be responsible. We got to address it. We can't ignore it. We ignore it. We leave it alone. Like in a restaurant, guys just left it alone. That's ridiculous. There was another video that I really enjoyed. I saved it on my playlist. It was not at a restaurant, but it was in some outside seating somewhere. And this guy hit this woman so hard that she fell off her chair onto the floor. Thankfully, the men that were around, they jumped on him and they beat his behind. Good. They didn't just sit there. What I'm saying is, if you're a healthy male and you know some unhealthy young men, some men, talk to them. Get them to work on themselves. If you're a healthy male, you can create a way for you to be present for young boys in your reach that you know are growing up without a father. And if you are an unhealthy male, get help. Do the work. Make that choice. Because at the end of the day, it all is a choice. I can't remember who said it. It was either Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela, but I think it was Martin Luther King. He said the only thing that evil needs to thrive is for good men to do nothing. So don't do nothing. Do something. Choose to do something. Thank you. Welcome again to Choose Wisely, and I'm asking you to choose wisely. Choose healthy. Until the next video, I'm your host, Armin Gabrielli.